Hola estudiantes y bienvenidos a Ayuda Rápida. Today we're going to learn about el imperativo, comandos o mandatos informales, the imperative, informal commands. Let's take a look at how we form affirmative informal commands. We call these tú commands or you commands, right? Because we will use these with people we know very well, like friends, or with children that are younger than us, and we can be more informal. So instead of the yo form of the verb that we use with formal commands, we will actually use the él, ella, usted form of the verb. That's it. The good news here is that the verb does not change at all. There's no vowel change or flip-flop. It is the way you use the verb that makes it a command. Let me show you. If I'm just saying Maria studies today, I'm going to use the verb estudiar in the él, ella form, which is estudia. María estudia hoy. This is simply a statement. But if I need to tell Maria to study today, I need to command her to study. Now I will use the same form of the verb estudia, but I'll be addressing Maria and speaking in a more urgent tone. María, estudia hoy. Maria, study today. See, the way that you use the verb makes a difference. Let's take a look at one more example. How would you tell someone to hang up the phone? Let's use the verb colgar. Let's think of the él, ella, usted form of the verb. Since colgar is an AR verb, we will use cuelga. And yes, notice that the verb cuelga does have a stem change. So we need to be very mindful of those. Cuelga el teléfono. I will be addressing the person directly to say, please hang up the phone. Now, just like with every other tense, we have irregular verbs. For the tú commands, we have 8 verbs that do not follow the same pattern. Here they are. Let me give you some examples. The verb ver, ir, to go in the tú form is ve. So if I wanted to tell someone, please go buy some bread, ve a comprar pan. The verb poner turns into pon as an irregular tú command. So if I wanted to say to someone, maybe a friend, put the dress over there, pon el vestido allí. And the verb hacer, which is usually an irregular verb, it is also an irregular as a command, turns into as. So if I wanted to say, for example, to my sister to make the bed, haz la cama. Pause the video and make a note of the rest of the verbs that are also irregulars and start practicing these. Now let's take a look at how to form negative informal commands. Now you might be thinking, let's just add no in front of the verb, but here's the thing. Before we add no before the verb, we do need to change the ending when we make a verb informal or an informal command. Let's use estudiar again as our example. So the rule is that for AR verbs, we will add the ending ES. For ER and IR verbs, we will use the ending AS. Since the verb estudiar ends in AR, I'm going to use the ending ES or estudies, right? So AR turns into ES. María, no estudies hoy. María, don't study today. Once I've changed the ending, then I can add no before the verb to make it negative. Let's take a look at one more example. How would you tell a little kid not to fall asleep? All right, so let's change the ending of the verb dormir. Then we can add no before the verb. So we know that for ER and IR verbs, we use the ending as, right? So we change ir for as, no duermas. This verb is also a verb that has a stem change, so we have to be mindful of that. No duermas means don't sleep. Now, there are some other verbs that have other spelling changes at the end in order to maintain their original sound. These changes also apply to the formal negative commands, so these are good to know. These are verbs that have different endings, and we're going to go over those endings real quick. Let me show you an example. Let's start with verbs that end with car, like the verb tocar, to play, right? The C in tocar changes to QU. So now the verb looks like this, no toques. Remember, this is only for the negative form. So, no toques la guitarra. This is the to form of tocar, means don't play the guitar. I'm addressing somebody informally. Now, remember I said that these changes also apply for formal negative commands. So if you are conjugating the verb tocar in the formal form, because you're addressing somebody formally, or in the usted form, same thing. The C turns into QE, and then you change the ending, like you learned in the formal commands lesson. So no toque eso means don't touch that, but in the formal command. Here are the other endings that also have changes. This will be a really good place for you to pause the video and take note of these endings. There's also 4 verbs that have irregular negative to command forms. These are the verbs dar, estar, ir, and ser. Here are some examples so that you can understand how to use them. Let's do some quick practice. See if we can remember all of that. Let's use these verbs to command people we know. So we're addressing people informally. Let's start with the verb comenzar. How could we use the verb comenzar to tell someone to start studying right away? How would you complete the sentence? You can pause the video to work on your answer before you see the responses. Now let's use correr to tell a small child not to run in the house. Sorry, I misspelled the word not and forgot the T. But yes, we're making this command negative, so we start with no. How do we conjugate this verb? Finally, let's use the verb ir to tell your friend not to go to the movies alone. How would you complete this sentence? Let's see how you did. For the first one, we wanted to use the verb comenzar to tell someone to start studying right away. Did you spell the verb like this? Remember, comenzar is one of those verbs that have a spelling change when it's used as a to command. So the ZAR turns into CE. Comience a estudiar ahora. There's also a stem change in the verb comenzar. The second one, we wanted to use correr to tell a small child not to run in the house. If you spelled it corras, you did a good job. This is a regular verb, so we simply use the ending as because any verbs ending in er or ir, like correr, use this ending. No corras en la casa. For the last one, we wanted to tell a friend not to go to the movies alone using the verb ir. Is this how you wrote it? Remember, ir is an irregular verb and has its own spelling when it's used as an informal command. So ir turns into vayas. No vayas al cine solo means don't go to the movies alone. Keep at it, and if you have any questions, make sure to reach out to your teacher. Have a great day.